Good morning, dear colleagues. I thank you for your invitation to take part in UTICamp. It is my first time at UTICamp, but I'm sure it's not the last time. To be honest, I really feel at home, and I will share with all my colleagues in Belarus that the atmosphere here is really great. So I invite them and encourage them to take part next year. So this is our second or third day, so I think that we can greet the organizers with the success of this event, and I would like to say you good luck. And I also thank UTICamp for the information support of Belarus Translators Forum as our partner. So really, my name is Yuliya Tsimashenka. So I will respond to the most frequently asked question, and the question asked at customs control. No, I'm not a family member of Yuliya Tsimashenka from Ukraine, the politician, and I do not have the braid that she used to have. See, well, I'm not, aware of the latest trend, but well, if she hasn't got this braid, maybe they will stop asking this question to me. But to be serious, I'm from Belarus, and my experience of freelance is 5 years as a freelancer, and before that, 5 years as an in-house translator. I translate from English, German, and Dutch into Russian, written translations, and also I do interpreting into German. I work with medicine, pharmacy, cosmetics, and a little bit of tourism. Also in my free time, though it is actually doesn't feel like free time, but as a second career, I organize different events for translators and interpreters in Belarus, and I will talk about it today. So Václav said that I will talk about the Belarus Translators Forum, but I will also talk about other events, and I invite you all in September 14th for our forum in Belarus. So my presentation today will be built like this. First, I will tell about the idea of such events in Belarus. Then I will talk about the reasons to take part in regional conferences and events, though I think that there is no need to talk about it to you, though it is an international event, we can say. But often people ask me if there is a reason to come to such smaller events. So maybe you will also help me to find the arguments to support participation in such conferences. Also, I will talk about the formats of the event in Belarus that we had from 2017 to 2019. I will talk about our successes and achievements in those 2 years. And of course, I will have to talk also about some, not negative, but actually negative aspects and about the reality of life of organizing such events. And then we'll have Q&A session. I remember it clearly. It happened 2 years ago in June. I woke up early in the morning and I realized that that's it. I will not fall asleep unless I put my idea down on paper. I want to have a big meeting for translators and interpreters in Belarus. So why I had this idea? Before I went to 2 big events in 2016, PROS conference in Stockholm, and then in 2017, BP conference in Budapest. And I was inspired by our Hungarian colleague Csaba Ban, who is an organizer, actually like the only organizer of a series of events all over Europe. So I asked myself, how does he manage to do it on his own? And at that moment, in Belarus, nothing was happening. Absolutely nothing. No events, no meetings. And sometimes my colleague Adelaida Arias, I don't see her, but you know Adela, I'm sure. So she organized some powwow meetings through PRO's website. So people met in a restaurant or a cafe, so up to like 10 people. We were just talking to each other. But it was not enough for me personally. I wanted some kind of, awareness raising part, not only networking, but also to have some content. And in universities, there were some academic conferences, but they were and they still are more targeted at students and graduates, but not at translators and interpreters who currently work. They are not even invited to such events. So I decided that I want in our small Belarus to have something of our own. And I said that I would like to get things going in this swamp and bring this, festival home and start this wave of networking, first of all, in Minsk. So I talked to a number of colleagues, Tatiana Struk, for example, and I thank her, Anna Kolomitseva. It is interesting that she's a conference interpreter here at my presentation. And who could think 2 years ago when I asked her, so how do you manage to do it, in Kharkiv? And now she's interpreting my presentation here. And also I talked to Konstantin Dranch, and he never said no, because I thought that, well, he's such a star, Costa, everybody knows him. But he supported me, actually. So when colleagues from other countries ask questions to me, I always try to share my experience with them. So I tried to do it and actually was successful. So now we start the second part of my presentation. So what are the reasons to attend regional conferences? Nothing new here, but I tried to make a list of the arguments that I usually offer to my colleagues who ask, like me, why should I come to your meeting, or why should I go to another city to some event? In Belarus, the networking culture is just born. People mostly sitting at home. They are not used to communicating. They are afraid of, going public. So that's how I see it. And they perceive their colleagues as competitors. And in particular, our people, they are not used to invest their money into their professional development. So if it's free of charge, they can go. If you have to pay for attendance, they say no. So I have to explain what is the value of the events organized by me or my colleagues. There is no universal response, but what I wanted to mention is knowledge exchange. And here to presentations of more experienced colleagues and conversations with more experienced colleagues, so talking about some difficult terminology and also issues of reporting and registration. So this is the money we invest to ensure our continuous professional development, or CPD. So the next thing is the virtualization and personal and individual communication. So Alessandra said also that we are all in social networks, like we use Facebook and LinkedIn really a lot. We use chats, we go to some groups in social media. And this component is vital, of course, but still, for me, face-to-face communication is still more valuable, because when you see a person, you can see his or her face, see the manner, and have this non-verbal communication. And after such personal meetings, face-to-face meetings, you start to trust people. For example, in Belarus, after we started meetings of medical translators, we initiated a chat for medical translation, and we discuss medical terminology. We plan our further meetings. So we are not maybe like friends, but at least we are good colleagues, and we managed to actually do it after we had this personal meeting, and then we started this chat on a messenger. As for the virtualization, I would like to give the example of this conference. One of the motives for me to come here, apart from the fact that UTICamp is our information partner, and I was actually so interested to see how people managed to organize such a big event in a forest. Another reason for me to come here was to meet Alexandra Komarova from Odessa, because we talked on the internet for quite a while, and then now we met here, and I see Sasha waving at me. Also, I went to Contact conference to Moscow in May, and after 4 years of online communication with Ekaterina Chashnikova, the medical translator, we were able to meet. And also I was able to meet Ekaterina Yakusheva, the translator. So we work as a translator and editor. We really worked together for 5 years. And this event in Moscow was a chance for us to meet in person. We were given hugs to each other and felt like friends. Also, I think that it is possible to find work at conferences, because here and at our events there are representatives of translation agencies, so you can give your visit card, you can meet people, and even if you're not offered a job like straight away, but still after a while people may need you and reach out to you. At least it works for me this way. Also, one of the arguments for me is to understand the trends in the development of our industry in the region, because we can learn about the trends at the local market. We can meet the most active key players, because we need to know what is going on in your country. Another important factor is also an ability to add a line to your CV, because we all like medals and, achievements. So when you attend professional conferences, you can add it to your CV. So I have a section in my CV where I add the conferences and events that I attended. So I had a couple of employers or like clients who paid attention to it, and they said, well, we see that you often participate in professional conferences, so we are happy to know that you are an active participant of the market. So you improve your qualifications, you do the networking, and it can actually help you to build the relations with your clients or employers. And last thing I wanted to mention here is to see people and to be seen, especially for translators, because we often work in pajamas at home, we don't see other people, and it's difficult sometimes to leave this comfortable place of your cozy home. So it's good sometimes to go and see people, and what I had in my life, you listen to your colleagues and you understand, well, actually my situation is actually pretty good. Or when you talk to some like-minded people, you realize that the way your have chosen for yourself is actually right. So what about the formats of our events in Belarus? Those are first informal meetings in restaurants for like 8 to 10 people. So we agree on the topic of our meeting beforehand. Or also we can come up with some questions when we meet. Often we change places at the table so that we can talk to one another, because often you want to talk to someone face to face. And there are also bigger events in the format of conference. So I would like to tell about the Belarusian Translators Forum. This is a one-day event which is carried out annually in September. This year it will be the third time. So there are 2 tracks, plus coffee breaks, plus contact exchange session. Also we have lunch and dinner. We have book crossing. For we exchange books for translators and interpreters, and next day we also offer tours and excursions in our city for those who come from other cities and countries. But this year even people from Minsk decided to join our tours. And the first forum was in 2017. It was free of charge, and the second and the third forums they were paid for, but I did crowdfunding for it. So the first and the second forum I organized them on my own, but now all those people are volunteers. They are not paid for their work. So my eyes were shining and their eyes were also shining, and I was not actually looking for them. They found me, and now we go forward as a team. So we work on everything, like we find the premises, we find speakers, we think about our cultural program, and we then register participants. So when a friend of mine looks at me, he says that it feels like you're organizing some rock concert. And actually, it is something similar. It's not a rock concert, of course, but organizing a big event always requires a lot of efforts. So in my presentation today, I will have a lot of pictures, not so much text, but I will comment on the pictures. So in 2017, when this idea came to my head, so I wanted to decide whom I would like to meet with. So I'm a German translator. So I went to the Facebook group for German translators, and there were 12 of us who met back then. It was the first meeting, and it's like today I invited people, and in a week we had this meeting. And so I found all those people just in several days. So I realized that people actually are interested. They are hungry for such things, because really nothing was going on at that time in my country. Apart from this calendar of meetings, also we go to movies together with colleagues. We have Facebook groups, Translators and Interpreters of Belarus, or TIB. And we use hashtags, and TIB cinema means invitations to movies. In Belarus, the situation with our Belarusian language is difficult, because most people use Russian in their everyday life. So my colleagues and I, we decided to support our language, підтримувати родну мову. And we try to go to movies when they are in Belarusian. So those are some pictures from our movies visits. So most often we do that at the weekend, and there are usually up to 15 people who meet together and go. Apart from that, as I'm first of all medical translator, I am interested to maintain contact with the other colleagues who do medical translations. So every 3 months I organize meetings of medical translators. We have done 8 meetings already since 2017, and the last one was actually about 10 days ago. Before we had all the meetings in Minsk, and the latest one was in Grodno, another city in Belarus. So before we used to meet in a restaurant, and so on the left you can see the yellow table. We met in a library. So we had some agenda with the speakers, and then we went to a restaurant again. But in Grodno, when we met, we had a different format. We had 2 lunches and a dinner, a round table, and an excursion. So to be honest, this meeting was the best. It was really emotional. We had great communication, and we were able even to talk, when we were going to Grodno on train. So if you can go somewhere together, do that. That's my piece of advice to you. So those are a couple of photos from our meetings. And besides, my colleagues and I, sometimes we go to universities and institutes to talk to students. We all remember how we were all students and we never met real interpreters and translators. So I thought that it would be a good idea to go and meet students. So I have my colleague Olga Loiko here. So she works in Belarus University, and Ola, she invites all the speakers from our forum to meet her students. So I always say that Olga is an activist, really, because she implements technologies at her classes, and also she invites leaders of the industry to meet the students and share knowledge with them. So here we also see Anastasia Simashka on the photo talking to students of Belarus State University, and also we see me talking to the students of State Linguistic University.
And then, 2017, after the forum, Mila Belkovich followed into my footsteps. She conducted an interpreters meeting. They conducted this event at the historical workshop, so we were looking for the appropriate premises, asking our colleagues and friends, and there is always someone who has it. There were 55 colleagues at this meeting. It was successful, but this was the only meeting of the interpreters. There were no follow-up events, but I think that others are still to come. But after the first Translators Forum, Olga Budaeva was speaking about freelance interpreting and loving her job. But Olga comes from Margonia, from a very small town in Belarus, and she spoke about her lifestyle, so living in a small town. And she had a picture at the end of her presentation. So there was a sad person sitting at the table, and there was a cake on the table. In front of him, he has a birthday cap on his head, and the capture was saying, "I'm a freelancer, and I have a team building event today." So after listening to this presentation, we came up with the idea that we shall have a team building for freelancers. So it may sound weird, but still, Yelena Loika, a colleague of mine, conducted it, and it was really extremely successful. And we recollect this very fun evening with dancing and singing, and it was like the second family, being around the members of the second family. So I highly recommend it to you. And speaking about the forum itself, the first Translators Forum of Belarus was conducted at the International Translators Day on September 30th. So it was initiated by the Republic of Belarus only in May 2012, was officially confirmed, and this was the Goethe Institute Minsk which supported me. Being a German interpreter and translator, I spoke to German institutions at the first place. So, and I told the Goethe Institute I would like to conduct a meeting, and maybe I was so inspired that they were eager to give us the conference room. The conference room was only for 60 persons, but the interest was very high, and there were 90 plus colleagues who came. We had some speeches in the TAD format, and this was not enough. So we stayed there and we had dinner together, and everybody wanted to for this event to continue, but everybody is looking for someone to organize another event. So it's me who undertakes it. We also have a Facebook group, Translators and Interpreters of Belarus, and we have a YouTube channel where one can see the show reels from the first forum. Then, following the previous event, I conducted another 2 meetings in January 2018 with 110 delegates, and in May 2018 with 130 delegates. We had a row of speeches with coffee breaks and with a dinner. So the format was more of a forum, but it was a little bit shorter. And everybody was really happy with this event. So when I started doing it, so you can notice that I'm using all the same vocabulary, so I'm a little bit ashamed to use them in front of interpreters. So really, when I started, I couldn't even hope for such great support from my colleagues. The second Belarusian Translators Forum was conducted in September 2018, and there were 140 delegates, not only from Belarus, but also from Ukraine and Russia. We had 13 Russian colleagues and 6 Ukrainian colleagues, and we had 3 speakers. Anna Kalamitova, who is interpreting at the moment, was among the Ukrainian speakers. I would also like to speak about 2 formats of meetups by other colleagues. For example, technical translators meetings, literature translators meetings, but I would like to be honest, there were only 1 meetings, and we are discussing the possibility to conduct more events. We have a group on Facebook with more than 100 users, and we have hashtags, for example, TIB job. And we use this hashtag to share some assignments. We also ask for advice concerning finances or promotion. Recent post by me was about passive languages. So I wanted to know what passive languages my colleagues have. So for me, I have a passive language, and I was interested in how many passive languages my colleagues have. And there will be a festival at the Minsk State University, conducted by Anton Somin, who is right now working at one of the Russian universities. They did not have anything connected with the translation, although this is a linguistic festival. Then we also conduct a event with Anastasia Simashka. It's been already 4 years since she started conducting these events, and the industrial park near the airport supports her, and Belarusian Chinese company supports her. And we also have workshops by foreign colleagues. At my initiative, we had 2 workshops. Colleagues, professors from Austrian universities came. They were supported, or these events were supported by the Austrian Academic Exchange Service. I would like to say a couple of words about our successes. So we conducted 15 events within 2 years, and there were overall around 800 delegates. In the group Translators and Interpreters of Belarus, we also intensively communicate with one another. And at the second forum of Belarus interpreters and translators, my colleague Alexander Markevich and me initiated a discussion on a possible association of translators of Belarus, but this was only a presentation. We still don't have any association. And the fourth thing, the fourth success story, this was actually my first goal. The colleagues know one another offline, and I can really state that many of my colleagues know each other well. And the awareness of the colleagues and me also has raised. But I was not going actually to promote myself by conducting those events. It just came by itself. But everything has its downside, so we as adults realize it, and it would be not honest if I would keep silence about some downsides. So first big downside for me, so it takes really much time and energy. For example, Olga wanted me to count how much time I invested for the second forum of translators and interpreters of Belarus. I invested 250 hours. So I could have spent this time with my family or working or just doing nothing, but I just had to do it. Yeah, another thing. We have still no alternative to crowdfunding. So the forum is still a non-commercial project. Neither me nor my team earns anything by conducting this forum. And right now I got stuck in a question, so I either have to commercialize this initiative or close it up. So at the very beginning it's very fun. Yeah, I'm close to the finish. Yeah, my time is running out. Yeah, so I'm considering what I shall do. Then misunderstanding of the idea by my colleagues. So they keep asking me, why shall I go there? Why shall I take part in the conference? Association is not that supported by the colleagues, but I don't want to finish my presentation at a sad tone. My presentation was called Networking in Belarus, how you can make friends around your competitors. You have to be a good example for your colleagues. And as for me, I think that I can do it well by telling my colleagues how you can create a friendly atmosphere. I keep telling, we may be very different. We may work with the same language pairs, but we are very different. Maybe we can substitute for one another, we can learn from one another. But key is to create a good atmosphere and to be an example for your clients and for your colleagues. And the more forums and meetings we have, the more successful we are. And I would like to be an inspiration for my colleagues who are considering organizing meetings in their cities and were afraid to do it. If you shall have any questions regarding event organizations, you may use the contact details on this slide. You may refer to the website of the Belarusian Translation Forum. And I would like to say something good at the end. So it's been already 2 years, and I look back and I can see that it was not in vain. I would regret it if I haven't tried it. This is why I would like to thank you for your attention. There's no time for Q&A, unfortunately. Yes, we have still some time. Maybe you don't have any questions at all. Dear colleagues, please consider your questions, and while you're considering, I'm going to speak a little bit of the situation in Ukraine. The situation with organization association is the same as in Belarus, but it lasts since 2009. PROS meetings have been conducted since 2006 as powwows. And a great success is a secret Facebook group over a cup of coffee. And there is a similar group in Lviv. So the Kiev colleagues, they meet one another once a month. So my colleague Alexander Ivanov can tell you when the next meeting is. Excuse me for interpreting you. Victoria Moroz and Olga Laiko and me visited this secret meeting this Sunday. Well, it's okay. Never mind. So here she comes. Yeah, no question. Yeah, we're really good friends and we know what's going on, and it is infinite inspiration how Yuliya could really manage this, all the group, the logo, the event, the forum. So what I would like to add about the association, we don't have anything, they don't have anything. If we unite, then we can be more effective. If you are considering association, please contact Yuliya. This will be more effective if we do it all together. Yes, Alexander? Yeah. Yeah. I would also like to say something. Thank you very much for coming, for sharing.
You are a great example for me. And when I started in Odessa just 6 months ago, I actually talked to Yuliya, and I recommend her to all of you. She's wonderful. So I would like to wish us all to have such a friendly tone, because we are all ambitious people here. And we all want to grow professionally and to find new clients, but we forget that we are people first of all sometimes. And a couple of words. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for Belarusian Translators Forum in September. I've attended it. It was great. And the greatest thing was the atmosphere and the networking and this really wonderful communication between all the people. And I can prove that really I didn't feel any competition there. It felt really friendly. Thank you, Anna, and thank you for joining our forum. Thank you, Yuliya. And we've got a lot of questions, but we have to finish because the time is over. So I really want to wish you good health because I know that it takes a lot of effort